Hello everybody, this is GamerGuilt 2005, and today we're going to be talking about a game that not a lot of people think about, but was actually the precursor to one of the more popular Nintendo games that is more well known on the N64, and of course, I'm talking about the original Starfox for the SNES. Now, the original Starfox for the SNES, as you may know, was the base story that inspired the remake on the Nintendo 64. And so, for those who might know Star Fox 64, but who may have never heard of the original, you might want to stick around. Now, there are two interesting things about this game in particular. The first one being that this was the first Nintendo game to use polygonal graphics for its world and character design. That meaning that the world and characters were designed using polygons. And two, this is the oldest Retro Throwback game so far on the channel, but that may change in the future. The game centers around a team of animal mercenaries known as Starfox Team, which end up assisting a planet named Corneria in repelling an invasion from an entity named Andros. And as far as the game tells us, that's basically the story. In the remake, Star Fox 64, they do go into the story a little bit more and tell about how Andros was a scientist who got expelled from Corneria, but I'm not going to spoil that for you. If you all want to spoil it for yourself, go ahead, but I digress. Start off exiting from our larger spaceship, piloting an R-Wing starfighter, a nimble starfighter with two blaster cannons.
No, its wings aren't R-shaped, because the devs slept through kindergarten apparently.
We then fly through Corneria City on the planet Corneria and take out Andros's goofy-aw war machines. Who designed these things? Dr. Seuss? After that, we defeat this joke of a first boss and fly straight into an asteroid field. There are other paths to choose from, but this is the easiest path. From here, the gameplay is changed to first-person gameplay. For those of you who played the indoor mission on Battlefront, this is a bad idea for obvious reasons. Here, we are forced to shoot asteroids as we attempt to prevent a repeat of the attack on Corneria by taking out a rock crusher. Still in the asteroid field, after stage 2, we move on to crippling Andros's fleet by taking out 3 battleships in the fleet. While we are capable of choosing to avoid having to fly through the battleships to destroy their cores, we ultimately have to do that anyway with the last one.
Ah yes, the illusion of choice.
However, the inside of the battleships have many sets of doors that must be shot with the R-Wing's blaster cannons in order to open them, as well as requiring perfect positioning and turning in order to navigate. However, I am clumsy, so this is just not fucking happening. After destroying the core on the last battleship, we move on to a base on an asteroid near the homeworld of Andros, Venom. From here, the idea is to take out Andros to prevent further attacks, but in order to get to there, we must first wade through an endless sea of enemy starfighters, land vehicles, and a giant spider tank, which can also fly and spin in circles with its legs extended.
Which is just the laziest and most cheap move I've ever seen, for being honest.
Upon killing the damn thing, we move in for the kill and face the toughest part of Andros's onslaught, including parkour, but with swinging doors, and a trio of advanced starfighters, which can transform into floating tanks, which can teleport. For those who are constantly asking, can he be Goku though?
The answer is yes this time.
After taking down the Goku tanks, we finally get a shot at Andros, who confidently boasts that the R-Wing fighters are incapable of taking him down. After going through one last obstacle course and into the final fight area, where Andros is waiting for us, he then shows his face. Not his real face, but a face nonetheless. He then proceeds to shoot 2x4s at us until we can finally shoot his eyes out and destroy a 3x3 NFT cube with his face on it, which explodes after 5 hits, allowing us to fly back home victorious.
This is the biggest womp womp I've ever seen, but it's a win, I guess.
Now, I'm aware that this game was released in 1993, but even by the standards of that year, this game is a claustrophobic mess that could put even certain levels of the original Doom to shame. If the game isn't forcing you down narrow paths while trying to deal with 3 different enemies, the game is forcing partially closed doors at you, giant swinging doors, doors that require you to shoot them to open, not to mention the second mission of the game, which is a literal asteroid belt. Also, Andros literally shoots doors at you at the end.
Like, what is this game's obsession with doors? I have no fucking clue what is going on anymore.
Well, these choices seem benign. Over time, they add up, and given that you only have 2 lives to complete an entire run of the game, this just makes it even worse. Unless you play on an emulator with custom save slots.
Like me, because I'm cool.
And that's not to mention the enemies. Most of them are goofy looking robots who don't pose a huge threat once you learn the ropes, but the pressure from the sheer volume can either make it easy for you to make stupid mistakes like forgetting to dodge other obstacles or enemy attacks, and in some cases enemy debris can cause you to die. The bosses themselves are a perfect example of this, as they are practically obstacle courses themselves with the exception of the first two bosses. The final boss is the biggest example of these problems, as his main form of attack is to spit an entire screen of 2x4s at the player, forcing them to fly near the edge while trying to shoot his eyes out. This is neither fun nor easy to do, because it is very easy to forget to dodge after getting impatient, because he does this the entire time. However, possibly the worst part of the game is that the sensitivity of both the default console controller and even the emulator controls are quite stiff, and it makes playing the game more difficult than it already is. And please, don't ask me about the graphics. They're worse than Doom's.
You think this is funny?
In a cosmic sort of way, yes.
Well, Mr. Funny Man, is this how you get your sick kicks?
What? It's just an ordinary crabby. Oh my goodness!
Now, despite the game being ancient and therefore clunky and full of cheap mechanics used to inflate difficulty, the game does have a few hotspots of good content, as well as a few things that make it playable and overall fun, mostly having to do with the gameplay itself. The game has fairly basic mechanics and a very simple overall objective, as well as a small selection of tools that you use to accomplish your mission. But this is really a perfect balance for practically every situation. The basic combat abilities and steering controls are exciting to use, especially if you're a fan of flying games. The Nova Bomb, while limited to 4 uses and hard to find, is very effective at dealing with basic enemy types and offers the player breathing room by blasting almost every enemy off screen except for the boss itself in certain situations. And the evasive maneuvers offered to the player are always useful, and the animations for them are fairly fluid, making it fairly easy to play the game as it's intended. And that's all for the day. Starfox, while not particularly interesting, is a fairly fun to play game and did debut some new methods for game development and inspired its more popular and interesting remake, Star Fox 64, by providing the base story for it. Well everyone, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please be sure to like, subscribe, comment, share the video with a friend, follow me on all relevant socials, and check me out on Twitch if you haven't already. Be sure to follow me there for any future live events that I might do, and I'll see you in the next video.